1-0 so far this year. We have the Commanders convincingly beating the Giants in their NFC East matchup, and the Packers convincingly taking down the Lions, the conference-winning Lions from last season. So this should be an excellent matchup. Honestly, I think the best matchup on the Week 2 slate. So I'm very much looking forward to it. Now when it comes to these two teams, how they did in Week 1, I think that Washington didn't quite live up to their full potential. Yes, they were able to dismantle the Giants with relative ease, keep them to a low-scoring game. Offensively, though, Deebo Samuel looked great. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt played pretty well for a debut, but we didn't see the full Jaden Daniels to Terry McLaurin connection that we usually do. As for the Packers, I think all around it was a pretty great performance. Their offense played well, their defense played well, held the Detroit Lions to a very small amount of rushing yards. So, heading into this matchup, it's a little bit difficult to assess, but luckily, we've got excellent insights from our friend Takami Dawes, ASMR. He's a big Lions fan, and he gave a huge breakdown for what he's looking for in the Lions for the rest of the season. And he even listed out a couple reasons why he thinks that this matchup will be so great. So we're going to credit him. We're going to draw on his insights, and I have to agree. I do think that as great as the Packers did play, there's one huge element that the Washington Commanders have on offense that the Lions do not, and that is a mobile quarterback. How are the Packers going to fare against a guy who can get outside the pocket and, go for the perimeter? We don't know how great they are at containing the outside run as of yet. So, I think the Commanders' defense played to a degree that was more impressive than I was expecting. I think the Packers also exceeded expectations a little bit. I thought that it would be a win from them, but I didn't expect it to be that convincing of a win. I think I'm going to switch things up here, and I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders to win on the road in this one. The Packers started off real hot, but I think this is going to be a real test, because the Lions, they had a lot of flux, they had a lot of new changes heading into this season, playing without both of their coordinators. The Commanders, on the other hand, lots of stability from last season to this, and they brought in more guys to help out that offense. I think it's going to be a whole new beast, so I'm going to go with the Commanders. That brings us to our first game in the 10 a.m. lineup of games on Sunday, and we've got another battle of the big cats. We saw Panthers and Jaguars face off in Week 1, and now we get another elite cat matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. I wonder if that was intentional by the schedule makers or not. I can't imagine it was, because I don't know what we gain from having a bunch of cat matchups, but still worth noting. Both of these teams also starting off the year 1-0 heading into this game. The Jaguars taking down the Panthers very handily, and the Bengals, I would say, more or less squeaking by the Browns. The Browns not even at full strength, but the Bengals defense actually winning them that game rather than their offense, which struggled mightily. When it comes to this game, though, I take a look at these two teams and I want to see let's analyze what they did well in Week 1 for the Jaguars. Wasn't necessarily the passing game. I think the passing game looked alright from Trevor Lawrence and company. Yes, you added Travis Hunter, and Brian Thomas Jr. was able to get a rushing touchdown, but through the air, they weren't all that effective, even with Liam calling the shots. Now, in the running back department, they had a day, specifically Travis Etienne. He was running all up and down at that Panthers defense. In fact, he was running so well that they went out and traded Tank Bigsby to the Eagles, reducing them to Pacheco, Tutin, and Travis Etienne in this backfield now. Travis Etienne and Basho Tootin and make this a more pass-heavy Jacksonville offense. Now, the corners in Cleveland, they've made a name for themselves. They're pretty good at what they do. So I don't think that the Cincinnati offense is all that bum. I think they just had hard matchups. Jacksonville, on the other hand, I can't necessarily say the same. I don't think that their secondary is as menacing. So I think we're going to see a bounce back week from the Cincinnati offense. I think we're going to have to see Trevor Lawrence throw a bit more in this game. Maybe he will make a few more mistakes. Overall, I don't think it'll be a horrible performance, but I think he had it easy in week 1, and he's not going to have it as easy in week 2, which, once again, is a crazy thing to say about the Bengals defense, but I do think that this game will snap them back to reality. So I'm going with the Bengals victory in week 2 over the Jaguars. Next up, we have another matchup of NFC East teams. Last week we saw the Cowboys face off with the Eagles on the opening night, and the Giants take on the Commanders. Now we get to see the Giants take on the Cowboys. And this game will determine who is in last place in that division, seeing as the other two teams have already gotten their victory. Whichever team loses here will go 0-2 to start the year. So it's an important one. Now, the Cowboys, when they played on Thursday night, I thought that they looked pretty impressive. You know, we're already expecting them to have a good year offensively, just with Dak being back and having George Pickens added to the lineup. And I thought they did deliver on that front. Javonte Turpin looked really good as the wide receiver 3. Javonte Williams, he was effective at getting into the end zone overall. Not the best as a rusher, but I wasn't expecting anything from the rush game as it is. It'll be interesting to see how they match up against the Giants, because the Giants' biggest flaw in week 1 was their rush defense. They allowed the Commanders to go for over 200 yards rushing. On the flip side, when we look at defense to defense, Philadelphia in the first half, they had their way with the Cowboys, but in the second half, they were only able to put up 3. So, a tale of two halves for this defense. The Giants, on the other hand, when you take a look at them in every skill position compared to the Philadelphia Eagles, they are remarkably worse. Quarterback, they're worse. Offensive line, they're worse. Tight end, definitely worse. I mean, I think they have the worst tight end in football. No offense. I saw him drop 2 wide open passes last week. Running back, Saquon Barkley. And then we got wide receivers, and Neighbors is good, but you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the other team. So, yeah, they're worse. In every way, the New York Giants are worse. And the Cowboys put up a great fight. They almost beat the Eagles. So give me the Cowboys in week 2, taking down the Giants, moving to 1-1, and I think that New York does fall to an 0-2 start for this year. After that, we have our NFC North loser matchup. We have the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions. The Bears losing in a humiliating fashion on Monday night to the Vikings. Let's talk about that game a little bit, because I didn't get the chance to cover it. That was one of the most absurd. I mean, it's the Bears, so I should have done better, but it was an absurd game. Like, they start off the game with the ball. Caleb Williams orchestrates that touchdown drive, and yes, the commentators, they're hesitant to really give him credit, and for a decent enough reason. It was a lot of dink and dunk. They got the ball down, they scored the touchdown, but it wasn't like he made any crazy throws. And as the game progressed, the Bears continued to build their lead on the Vikings, and the Vikings looked horrible. Quite frankly, they looked disastrous, and the Bears marginally better, though Caleb Williams was missing throws here and there, but they had some like special teams mishaps and things like that. So overall, the game was wasn't. Oh, and they went for on fourth down. They didn't get it. So the game felt like it was much further apart than it really was. And then the worst game for the Vikings when J.J. McCarthy threw that pick six. And then the Bears, they just bared it up. I don't really know how else to describe it. They were playing comfortably with the lead, in control of this game, and they just allowed a short field to turn into a Vikings touchdown. Then the Vikings were able to limit them defensively, started throwing up blitz packages, and Caleb could not handle it. And the Vikings completely took over. There was genuinely a point in that game where I thought J.J. McCarthy will have finished the game with more passing yards to the Bears defense than his own wide receiver group. And in the fourth quarter, he acclimated. So the Bears, that was gut-wrenching. That was a humiliating loss. Gonna leave yourselves scratching your heads for a while. That was a much-needed victory, too. And now in week 2, you play a Detroit Lions team that is going to be pissed. They just got manhandled by the Green Bay Packers, by their newest addition, Micah Parsons, in Lambeau. They're pissed. And if there's one thing about Dan Campbell, you do not want to play an angry Dan Campbell. You saw him last year against the Cowboys after that whole fiasco 2 years ago that cost them the 2 seed? Yeah. Dan Campbell holds a grudge, and he plays exceptionally hard. All gas, no brakes when he is mad. And I think we are going to see an onslaught. I think the Lions are going to be pissed. I understand that it's the Ben Johnson revenge game. Both parties have a stake in this fight. But I think the Lions have much more to prove. Ben Johnson, as great as he is, Chicago's offense, it was improved last week, but it wasn't perfect. Lots of hiccups there. And Caleb Williams still needs to develop. Whereas the Lions, yes, offensive line was not a strong suit for them, but I think they'll find a way to get it done. And I think they're going to win big in week 2. Next up, we have a matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and the Tennessee Titans. The Rams getting the win against the Houston Texans last week, whereas the Titans putting up a commendable performance against the Broncos. Offensively, nothing spectacular, but defensively, I thought that they did a really good job. The Rams, their offense was not as sharp as I was expecting. I mean, the Texans defense, credit to them. They're a good group of guys. Derek Stingley Jr., I know at one point got hurt during the game. I did not catch if he was ruled out or what game of it. I was in between things during the afternoon period. But they have a solid defense. So I think we are still to see better things from this Rams offense. Devontae Adams, not as great as I was expecting. Kyron Williams, I think he did fine. Puka delivered, as he does. But for the Titans, this is Cam Ward's second start. He played against a defense in week 1 that was very brutal, and now he gets one that in theory is softer, but they just limited C.J. Stroud and company to just 9 points. And the Titans, yeah, I don't know that they're necessarily known for their offensive line. Stroud, worst O-line in football, but the Titans did allow 6 sacks this past week, so I think that the Rams are going to have lots of rushers going at them. I think that they're going to swallow up C.J. Ward and spit him out and hand him another loss. So I'm going with the Rams, moving to 2-0 in week 2. Next up, we have an AFC East matchup to determine the ultimate loser. We've got the New England Patriots taking on the Miami Dolphins. Well, I guess not the ultimate loser, but one of these teams will move to 0-2 at the bottom of the division. And yeah, let's talk about it. The Patriots, I did not get the chance to talk about them in the last video. There were some elements I felt good about in that game. While watching that game through 3/4 Drake May did miss a few throws here and there, but Keyshawn Boutte, Stephon Diggs, Hunter Henry, they were all catching passes and gaining good yardage. The things I did not like from the Patriots offense, I think Drake May and Tre'Veon Henderson need more carries. I think that the tuck and run ability by Drake May cannot be understated. He got a whopping 7 yards per carry in his rookie year, and that was not for no reason. He is a talented runner. We did not see him utilize his legs enough in week 1 to pick up those extra first downs. Now, Tre'Veon Henderson, I understand he's a rookie, you want to ease him in, but I think that Ramondre Stevenson is burnt toast. I think that we can stop utilizing him as much as we are, and he needs more touches. And the biggest thing, the penalties were absolutely brutal. It felt like we'd make some progress and then get set back, not 5, 10, but 20 yards at times, with offsides or false starts. It was bad. I think definitely have to clean up the penalties. And I think they should be better this week, just knowing that Christian Gonzalez, I believe, is returning to the starting lineup. Not having him made the Raiders look fantastic. And the Raiders wideouts are nothing compared to the Miami Dolphins wideouts. So we'll have to see what happens. If the secondary looks as piss poor as it was last week, it could be rough. Now on the other hand, the Miami Dolphins were definitively the worst team in football last week, getting crushed by the Daniel Jones Colts. Not on my bingo card. Tua looked dazed out there. Tyreek looked upset. Devon Achane looked good. But it was just it was an onslaught from the second quarter onwards. They just never had a shot behind the entire game, and it didn't look close for a single minute. So I think between the two teams, the Patriots definitely look better. You do have to factor in that this game is in Miami, and I think that the Patriots struggle when they play in Miami. But with what I saw in week 1, I have little or no faith in the Miami Dolphins. And yeah, I am biased. I want to see a Patriots win. I think that they can play better than last week, and I think they will come out better. So I'm going to go with the Patriots getting the win here. Because another thing that they did well was they limited the run. They held Ashton Genty to like 2 yards per carry. So Achane, he's a talented runner, but I don't think he's going to be running all that much, because I think they'll be playing from behind. Anywho, after that, we move into our next game, which is the 49ers versus the Saints here. The Niners starting off 1-0, the Saints starting 0-1. Also, I'm starving. You can probably hear my stomach is throwing all sorts of fits. I don't know what to do about it, to be honest. I don't know. But the Niners getting an ugly win against the Seahawks in week 1. The Saints scraping by, almost getting there at the very end. They had a shot, and I'll give them credit. It was much closer than I was anticipating. But when it comes down to it, I think that the 49ers are going to be better than the Cardinals, and so I think that they're the better team. I think Saints lost to the Cardinals. It'll be a wider gap, and they'll lose again this week. There's nothing in particular that the Saints do. I don't know how to phrase this. Yeah, I don't view it as the Saints necessarily. I don't know. It's very hard for me to verbalize. I think I'm just being a hater. That's honestly all it is. But yeah, I'm just very low on the Saints this year because the quarterback play. They did better than I was expecting last week. But I do think that San Francisco is just a more refined team, more talent. Even with injuries to Kittle and apparently Purdy. I just saw a headline about that. I think that they'll manage to get it done on the road. And if they don't, man, I'm going to feel very low about the 49ers. Buffalo Bills in the game of the week against the Ravens. One of the best comebacks that we've seen. Under 4 minutes, 15 points. Outstanding work by Josh Allen and company. But on the other side, our other New York team here, the Jets, they impressed against Aaron Rodgers, their old quarterback. They faced the Steelers, and they did not keep it up easy. They had a huge lead at one point, an 11-point lead. It quickly vanished, but they hung in there until the very end. Even until the last series, it looked like they had a chance to win this game. And yeah, offensively, I was not expecting that good of a performance from them. Realistically, on defense, I'm not too worried on defense. I feel like it's hard to stop the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills offense will get their way, but it's if your offense can keep up. And so far, I have been led to believe that the Jets offense can keep up. They played really well. Justin Fields looked great. Garrett Wilson looked great. That connection as strong as ever. So I don't have anything that would indicate that this should be a defensive matchup. In the back of my mind, I think both of these teams did so well in week 1. It'll probably somehow end up being a lousy game. But for the time being, I'm excited. I think it could be a great game, a shootout potentially. But I do think that the Bills, Josh Allen is just too good, man. I think that they'll take this game. Next up, we have a matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. A matchup featuring two teams that Russell Wilson used to play for. This past week, we saw the Seahawks get very close to beating the 49ers, kind of like the Saints-Cardinals game, where it was right there, it was right in the palm of their hands, but they just couldn't pull it out. And I'll say it was a commendable game by the Seahawks. They almost had it. Steelers, on the other hand, they come out on the winning side of a close game and taking on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers put on an offensive clinic. Defensively, they were nowhere to be found until the very end when Jalen Ramsey stepped up. But yeah, their defense did not exist, which I expect to change. I think Mike Tomlin will really rip a new one for those guys on the Steelers defense. As for the Seahawks, I'm trying to think what they could do to make this hard on the Steelers. They would just have to get after the quarterback a lot. I think the one thing that the Steelers didn't do that great, Aaron Rodgers, he made a lot of great throws. He managed to look pretty good. But the Steelers O-line did allow him to get sacked 4 times. So if Seattle can drop a lot of pressure, throw good looks at that O-line, confuse them, get Rodgers knocked around, they have a chance. But I'm not going to give them that chance. I'm going to go with the Steelers winning this game in week 2, playing at home. Next up, we have a game between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. This will be for the last place in the AFC North, because if either of these teams loses, they'll go to 0-2. Bengals already got a win. Steelers already got a win. Whoever wins will have 1 win. So it's the Browns versus the Ravens. And traditional logic tells you that the Ravens should win. And I'm a pretty big fan of traditional logic. But we also saw the Baltimore Ravens in literally the exact same spot a year ago. They go out and play on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs. Nationally televised game. Extremely entertaining. Very close. A photo finish. Isaiah Likely eliminates them from winning that game. And they end up losing. So they have a week 2 matchup against Las Vegas. And you expect them to demolish the Vegas Raiders because, yeah, they're a horrible team. They go out there, they get up early, play really well for 3 quarters, and then choke in the 4th quarter and manage to lose to the Raiders. So, am I going to say that the Baltimore Ravens are whooping the Cleveland Browns? No. I think it's actually very possible that they lose this game. They've shown us time find a way to lose, I'm still going to give them the win. I think that they're better on both sides of the ball. They are the better team. They absolutely should win. But it's not a guarantee. I'm not guaranteeing it by any means. I think it's like 60-40. I give the Browns a 40% chance of pulling out the victory here because the Ravens will just keep them in it. But all of that aside, Baltimore's the better team. Please get the win here. And the Browns, you did well. You actually did very well in week 1. If you can catch the ball, you have a shot. Like, don't feel too bad for yourself. I think you could win this game. I'm not gonna give it to you, but I think you could do it. Next up, we have a surprisingly juicy matchup. The Peyton Manning legacy game between the Denver Broncos and the Indianapolis Colts. 2 weeks ago, I was looking at the Denver Broncos defense salivating at their first couple of matchups. And then I see how the Indianapolis Colts play last week, and I'm honestly kind of scared to start them because what does this Colts offense have in store for the Broncos? Broncos defense did play really well against the Titans. And I think it's not as easy of a matchup, but I think they could do things that would fluster Daniel Jones. I think the Broncos' strong suit is their defense, whereas the Dolphins, their strong suit is their offense. And offensively, they just couldn't get it going. So I don't think that the Colts are going to score on all 7 of their drives again this week. But the Colts are kind of this wild card, at least for 1 week. It could be like last year's Saints. I don't know what to expect from them. They could build on last week's success, or they could completely fall off the face of the earth. So in fantasy purposes, I am a little bit scared. I don't know what's in store. But the Broncos, I don't think that they'll be as bad on offense. I think offensively they were really off their game. I think that Sean Payton and Bo Nix will work hard to get realigned. And I think defensively they've got a better lock on the Colts. So the Colts are playing against a much tougher D. I think that the Broncos should win here. If they don't, we're going to have some serious conversations about the Colts, which I'm not ready for. Anywho, next up we have a matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, can't do it. I keep giving Bryce Young up. And, well, I don't know, I'm torn, because I feel like there was a point in last year where I was very low on Bryce Young. And when they subbed him out for Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton immediately made that offense look good, I was like, wow, he is the problem. But the insanity run didn't last that long, and eventually Bryce Young was brought back in, and he played much better than he ever has. And then he played this past Sunday. I don't know if it was the weather delay or the off-season or what it was, but he looked horrible again. And the Cardinals, they at least looked decent. They looked mid at best, maybe slightly below mid, but the Panthers were trash. I gotta go with mid over trash, especially when the Cardinals are at home. I don't know, I just don't see how I can predict the Panthers to win after that performance. The Cardinals kind of got a great schedule going for them so far. You play against the Saints, you go against the Panthers, you have a chance to go 2-0. Maybe take over this division, who knows, if the Saints pull off a weird upset. I guess the Titans, yeah, never mind. You don't have I don't know. I think the Rams are winning that game for sure, so, yeah, but you can hang in there with the 2-0 stuff. Anywho, after that, we have a matchup between the Eagles and the Chiefs. This is our Super Bowl rematch game, and honestly, I don't like this time slot for this. I think that this is too early in the season. We needed this matchup later. You can't do the Super Bowl rematch already in week 2. I'm not a fan. And that too, with Chiefs being this battered and bruised, yes, they are playing at home. Xavier Worthy injury, it's really hard to pick them. Like, they got demolished on the big stage against the Eagles, and since then, yes, the Eagles' defense has gotten worse, but the Chiefs have gotten worse too, I feel like. And yeah, even though the Eagles' defense didn't look that strong, allowed the Cowboys to do a lot of work in the first half. I always kind of figured that the Cowboys' offense would be better than the Chiefs' offense this year, and the Chiefs' offense now has taken another hit. So, yeah, I think that Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they'll manage to take care of Xavier Worthy. Outside of that, Travis Kelce, he has lost a step. As long as you don't allow that one broken play in which he scored the touchdown, that was literally just one play, you kind of got them. I think offensively you have them locked up. They'll be fine. And now you just have to overcome their defense. And their defense allowed a lot of touchdowns to Justin Herbert. So yeah, right now, I think that the Eagles have this in the bag. Maybe the Chiefs can whip something up, cook up a surprise, but realistically, I say the Chiefs starting off 0-2 for the first time in a long time, and the Eagles advancing to 2-0. Now, after that, we have 3 matchups left, our 3 primetime games. We've got 1 on Sunday and 2 on Monday. Our Sunday night matchup is going to be the Atlanta Falcons versus the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to be honest, at first I was pissed. I was pissed that they gave us J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings 2 weeks in a row on primetime. But this was during the Bears game, after he threw the big 6. I was like, why would they do this to us? Why would they punish us with a rookie, essentially a rookie quarterback in his first start, and then a rookie quarterback in his second start? Do they hate us? And now, based on how the game ended, okay, well, fair play. Michael Penix Jr. versus J.J. McCarthy. I am actually very interested now in seeing how this will pan out. The perseverance of the Vikings last week, exceptional. You know, Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, they hung in there. Kevin O'Connell delivered a lot of great expressions on the sideline in that game. And yeah, J.J. McCarthy not getting rattled. I feel like that was one difference you can tell. Like, Caleb Williams, he goes out there, and sometimes he just looks deflated. He looks so whiny, for lack of a better word. And McCarthy, as bad as the game was going for him, yes, on the field he looked flustered, low snap, like the play clock was consistently getting very low before he got the snap out. Didn't look comfortable for most of the game, but on the sidelines he kept his composure very well, and I will say that was quite admirable. So give the first game vet his props. Michael Penix, he's just always in it. I feel like he's always keeping his team in a position to win the game, making great plays. I feel bad because it's really just Younghoe Koo. If Younghoe Koo makes that kick, they could have won this game in, like, what, he started 4 games. 2 have already gone to overtime. This other one potentially could have gone to overtime. They're loomers. Overall, I think I have to go with the Vikings based on week 1. I think I like their defense a little bit more. I think offensively their skill positions, wide receiver is better, tight end is better, running back clearly goes to the Falcons. Quarterback, for right now, I would give it to Michael Penix Jr. just because we've seen more from him. But if J.J. McCarthy can do the same thing that he did in week 1 and week 2, well, okay, not the same thing. If he can do what he did in the fourth quarter in all of week 2, then you've got a real quarterback. So yeah, overall, I'm going with the Vikings in week 2. But I think the Falcons can definitely do it. I think this is going to be a great game. I think that it's interesting. I'm actually very curious to see who wins. But I'll go Vikings. After that, we've got our 2 Monday night matchups. Houston looks rough. They're in rough shape. CJ Stroud might get sacked like 80 times this year. It's not looking too bright for them. Nico Collins could not get the ball enough. The Bucs, on the other hand, rush defense looking great. So, yeah, that front line on the Buccaneers defense, I think, is pretty good. The rest of it, I don't think Stroud will have time to connect with his receivers. And offensively, I think that the Buccaneers have a lot more to offer than the Texans at this point. I like the running game. I like the passing game. Yeah, it's just a Buccaneers victory for me. I don't know. The Texans, when they're playing a less good team, I'll give them wins, but opening up with the Rams and the Bucs, it's hard. I think you're going to start with a couple losses, and that's okay. You just have to hope that the Jaguars don't somehow pull off the upset victory, and the Colts as well, because if they both start off 2-0 and you're at 0-2, starting to dig yourself a big hole. But I think it's very possible we see Jags at 1-1, Colts at 1-1, Titans at 0-2, you at 0-2. You're still in it. You're not behind at all. So that brings us to our last game. Our last game of the week is going to be an AFC West matchup between the LA Chargers and the Las Vegas Raiders. And my good friend Stockton, California, I did not mean to slight you. I did not mean to disrespect the Las Vegas Raiders by not talking about them in the recap video. I have done a disservice. The Raiders played very well. The Raiders, they came out, Geno Smith, Pete Carroll, they walked into that game. I've not been with this organization ever before, and the offense looked great. I think it did not matter the third down, third and long, third and short. They were able to get it done. Geno threw for like 360 yards, it felt like. And it was with a ragtag group of guys like Brock Bowers, yes, elite athlete. He did his part. But Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker were routing us like Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown out there. It was bad. Trey Tucker honestly looked... excuse my pun, but Trey Tucker was killing us like Henry Ruggs out there. It was a rough watch. So, yeah, no, the Raiders, they look like their defense held us to 10 points. Their offense did their thing. They got a lot of points up there. Eventually we scored another one, right? No, we went for the field goal at the end. Yeah, to 13 points. And yeah, Genty didn't look that great. I don't know if that's the Patriots defense or if that's him in itself. Chargers defense, they made life hard on Mahomes for a lot of it. They were not as good at containing the quarterback run. Mahomes picking up a lot with his feet, but I don't think Geno is going to pick it up and run all that often. It'll be interesting to see what kind of success Genty can get in this game. And same with Marion Hampton. I feel like Vegas' defense did a decent job. I think it was more the Patriots' offensive coordinators that botched it. If Henderson got the ball more, I think we would have been more effective, but we didn't have designed runs for Greg Mann. We didn't get Henderson that many touches. We did go with Stevenson too much for my liking in the offense. Justin Herbert, he was mobile, but he's not always that mobile. And yeah, Hampton, kind of uninspiring in game one. Not as bad as Genty, but not living up quite to his hype. So we'll see which rookie running back takes the cake for best back so far. Honestly, it'll be an interesting game. It'll be very interesting. I think I gotta go with the Chargers just because they beat the better opponent in week one. They took down the Super Bowl runner-up Chiefs, whereas the Raiders beat us. And though I'm pretty high on the Patriots, we did just finish like third to last in the league. So, fourth to last. Yeah, it's just a matter of competition. The Chargers have proven they can be better ones that were really close that didn't pan out. One being the Ravens. It came down to the finish, and I'm not too upset about that one. Same with the Bears and Vikings. I mean, through 3 quarters, I felt really good about that pick. And in the 4th quarter, the Vikings turned it up a notch. And yeah, they won't. So I don't feel too bad about the pick, but ultimately both of those were wrong. And then the other ones I got wrong was I had a big blunder on the Panthers, and I had a big blunder on the Colts and 2 others. But overall, 10-6, not a bad way to start. Looking to improve this week. We'll see if it happens. And my lock of the week, I'm Titans hunting this year. I'm going with the Rams over the Titans for my eliminator selection. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy content like this, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be putting out more videos as the weeks progress. Next video will be Sunday night, a recap of all the action. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you